Hello, everyone. This is Devin Thorpe for Your Mark on the World, and I have a wonderful guest today from Tanzania. Holy cow! I don't even know how to find Tanzania on a map. I think you're in Africa, Bekka. This is Bekka Ross Russell that's joining us. She is the founder and the leader of an organization called The Small Things. Bekka, thank you for joining us all the way from Tanzania, wherever that is.
Thank you so much for having me. We're over in East Africa, just the pointy corner of Africa. We're around there.
Pointy corner of Africa. Okay.
That general vicinity, yeah.
So, who are some of your neighbors there geographically?
Oh, okay. So we're just below Kenya. We're next to Rwanda. We touch like 20 different countries. We touch Uganda. We touch Zimbabwe below, Mozambique. We touch a lot of different countries.
Wow. Okay.
It's a surprisingly big one, yeah. But where we are is in the north, close to Kenya.
Tell us a little bit about Tanzania, just to get us oriented a little bit.
Sure. It's an amazing country. Very, very beautiful, very lush, surprisingly lush, I think. You've got Zanzibar, you've got the Serengeti, Ngorongoro crater, some of the most amazing wildlife locations in the world. And it's a nice, what's the word? There's a better word for this. It makes up a little bit for the no power and the no water and the various problems that you tend to have. At least when you go on vacation here, it's spectacular.
Wow, wow! Sounds like a wonderful, wonderful place. Tell us about what it is that The Small Things does.
Great. Yeah, what we do, we sort of do two different things. One is that we partner directly with one existing orphanage, and in that case, we're working with the local partners, locally owned. And the second is that we're now developing our own programs as well. So we began working with this orphanage about 4 years ago, and at that time, the children at age 5, these are all children who've lost their mothers. Very few have fathers, but most do not, and no relatives who can take them or are willing to take them. So it was happening before we began our organization that at age 5, the kids were going to boarding school. And a couple years before that, they didn't even have that option. They were just being sent back to the village, and about a third of them, according to our director, who's been doing this for 26 years, about a third of them were abused or neglected or dead within a year. So our big project now is we're creating a children's village where the kids will live in family-style homes when they age out of the orphanage, and also really expanding our outreach so that kids are not ending up in residential care if there's anyone who can take them, and if it's just a matter of poverty, because that's a really big problem in this country.
Sure. So you're helping kids end up with grandparents and uncles oftentimes, I imagine, and aunts, and then helping them financially, yes, rather than putting them into an orphanage or some other care facility, right?
Whenever possible, yeah. There's, I think we really have to, we try to kind of strike a balance, because our director, this woman that we partner with, is really cautious after all these years of sending kids to unwilling homes and seeing bad outcomes. So if we can find people with the heart for it and the motivation, we can take care of the financial end and help them out with that part of it. We just believe that that residential care is important for the kids that really don't have anything, and we do a lot of that, but that it's wrong. It's ethically wrong for kids to be in an institution if they have family that, just because of poverty, if poverty is the single limiting factor.
It would seem to me that it would also...
Our model is really based around... Exactly. It's a lot smarter economically. The effects go on further too, because the kids in the orphanage, it's just them. Often when we work in the families, we're able to help out other siblings and things like that, which is great. But it's hard. A lot of organizations in Tanzania do the residential care because it's easy to get money for it. It's a lot easier to get, there's a bunch of cute kids in an orphanage. People like that. People want to contribute, and that's great, and we need the help. But it's a little bit less sexy. It's a little bit less exciting, a little less of that savior complex once you are really working with kids in the families. And it needs to be done, but it's less glamorous, I think, as a whole. So we have sort of those three branches: the orphanage, the children's village, which we're now building with the help of Shazzy Visram and Happy Family Brands, who've made a commitment to phase 1 of funding for that, and the outreach program, which is keeping the kids in families. So three-pronged approach.
Tell us a little bit about your family situation.
Sure. So I came here as a single 22-year-old after finishing my undergraduate degree and before starting graduate school. I fell in love with my daughter the first day that I walked into the orphanage. And a lot of people do that and are not able to adopt. I was very lucky. She was this little tiny squawking, 11-month-old kid who looked had this, she was pretty malnourished at the time. She had some worms and some other problems. So she was just this little tiny thing, but this huge personality. And so from very, very early, I knew that I wasn't going to leave this kid. And with my son, it took a little bit longer because the adoption laws are quite complicated in Tanzania. And for a long time, I thought that it wouldn't be an option to adopt him. So I had to kind of keep my distance for a little bit, and then it turned out that he was eligible as well for adoption. So I now live here. The past 2 years I was in London in graduate school, got married, dragged my poor newlywed husband back to Tanzania with me, and adopted these two kids, and they are spectacular. They're the best thing that's ever happened to me. And they're just, it's amazing. I mean, their English is great these days. They speak Swahili until now, and now it's very, very cute to get to see them running around the house speaking English. We're about to go abroad for the first time with them, so that'll be very exciting. Simone, my 6-year-old son, asked me the other day if they have stores in America. He was concerned that they wouldn't have stores in America. I wanted to say that's pretty much all they have in America. Don't need to worry about that one.
That is so precious. Bekka, I want to explore something with you. I want to understand why you went to Tanzania, why you stayed, why you created the small things. What's at the root of all of this?
So that's a really interesting question. I think I didn't really know at first. I knew I wanted to go into nonprofit work. I was in between undergraduate and graduate school at the time that I first came out here, and wanted to just get some experience for my resume, thinking that I'd just learn a little bit, go to school, and then figure out what I wanted to do. And obviously things spiraled from there. But originally, I'm realizing more and more the more I'm out here, it has a lot to do with my grandmother, who was a Holocaust survivor and actually spent the war. She was orphaned when she was 16, and she spent the war smuggling children out of occupied Europe, and then later started a daycare center for orphan kids in Bergen-Belsen, which was the displaced persons camp at the time. And so I think that she's very like me. We are very similar in personality, that we've both, love kids and really sort of have that thing for kids. But I think that knowing that even when her own life was in danger, that she was able to do so much for other people, and that she herself was saved several times by people who had no stake in it, really makes you feel like when you've been given everything, you need to find a way to do some of that as well. That there's really no excuse in that situation to not do as much as you can, and to not really understand that circumstances are not reflective of people's ability or work, often effort, especially in countries like this. The women we work with work far harder than anyone I've ever met, and get nowhere without a little bit of help. So I really felt like I didn't have a choice. I think I kind of just fell in love and felt like this was something I had to do.
It's,
but at the end of the day, sorry, quickly, at the end of the day, I think there's the internal motivation, but what keeps you here is the kids, because they are just amazing. You fall in love with them, and they're just kids. They're just like, you know, 5-year-olds and 4-year-olds and 2-year-olds and 1-year-olds at home. They just don't have any parents, and so there's a lot of reasons to come, but that's the reason to stay, and the reason to come back is once you really, they change your life.
At some level, though, you can't do this all alone. What is the help you most need?
Sure. Well, we're in a really exciting time right now. We've gone from up until January, actually, of this year, no, December, I was the only employee of the organization, and I have a great board, but we were at that time working, we employed 6 people, we had so mamas at the orphanage, we had the orphanage support, we had this pilot house that we were opening up, and it was all alone. So in the last couple months, we've been able to bring people on, and it's going really, really well. We're finally in a place where we're able to kind of get our feet under us and really formalize and make sure we're going to be able to be there for these kids for a long time. Our biggest fundraising project was, you know, our biggest goal was for the construction of this children's village, and we've been very, very lucky and are very grateful to have gotten a construction commitment for that. It was actually a lot earlier than we expected. So we're now in the process of ramping up, trying to raise our operating expenses, because every time you bring in more kids, those operating expenses rise. And again, it's sort of the least sexy type of fundraising, and so often is very difficult. And then volunteers. Volunteers make all the difference for us on the ground. We have volunteers come from all over the world, anything from 4 weeks up to a year or more, and they just work with the kids every day, and they help take some of the stress off the mamas, so that which is the name for the African women caretakers, and you know, one of our goals is also to really have the mamas having more time to bond with the kids, that should be their primary relationship, but volunteers are really important as well, and really make a huge difference for these kids and for the women we work with. So come work with us if you're looking out here. Tanzania.
Are the kids in your facility, are they by and large healthy, or are the kids oftentimes suffering from health problems?
Yeah, our particular orphanage where we work with right now doesn't have the ability to take HIV positive kids at this time, only because of concerns with hygiene. We're looking at building an isolation room at some point. But right now, when one kid gets sick, everyone gets sick, and it just wouldn't be safe for a child with a compromised immune system. In the new children's village, because they're family-style houses with only 10 kids in a house, then we're going to be able to really help kids with more complicated health issues. Because we're having that problem right now with an outreach family. There's a 3-year-old girl that we want to help, but she's HIV positive, so we have to find a way to work in the community rather than being able to provide residential care. And once we have our own space, that'll no longer be the case. But even with that, it's tough out here. We actually just lost 2 babies a couple of weeks, been a couple weeks already, both 9 months old, to a nasty virulent pneumonia. And they were in the hospital from the very first day, the best local hospital in the area, and they both passed away within 2 days. And that's rare, but this stuff does happen here. Kids get malaria all the time. Yeah, it's tough.
Wow. It's just
that nearly killed me. I got
very different world.
I have to be honest. I nearly quit.
You're not in Canada.
It really is. No, far from it. We had to actually, I have a great picture. This was the one funny part of a really horrible couple days, is we were rushing one of our babies, Hope. The first one had already passed away, sadly, and we were rushing the second one to another hospital. in Moshi, which is a couple hours away from us, and our hospital was setting us up with their ambulance, right, which has the siren on the top and lets us just go right through. And it wouldn't start. We had to push start it. We had about 8 guys push starting the ambulance. I have a picture of it, and it just was such a typical Tanzanian moment. It was such a funny moment. It's like we got to push start the ambulance first, and then we can go to the new hospital.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
It's very different.
What a moment. Well, now tell people how they can get in touch with you to offer help, to coordinate volunteering, to donate, whatever it is they want to do. How do they reach out and connect?
Yeah, so our whole philosophy, and one of the reasons that working in Tanzania, sort of the silver lining of it being so hard, is that a little bit of money can go a really long way, and a little bit of work and a little bit of effort and a little bit of materials, shoes, clothes, anything, old toys, we can really put to use here in a way that is kind of unimaginable when you're in the first world, the more developed countries. So the best way is through www.thesmallthings.org. That's our website, and we have a sponsorship program where people get close to individual kids and sort of develop a relationship with them over time, which is great. We have just standard fundraising drives. We have one right now for Project Riziki, which is to prevent which is to basically pay for medical care in cases like with Lulu and Hope, our 2 girls who passed and need more extensive care. And then we have sort of a bunch of information about our different programs, volunteering, fundraising, all different ways to get involved. Working on committees, we have committees that are based on email. We have people from all over the world. And our whole philosophy is really based around this one quote from Mother Teresa, which says, we ourselves know that what we're doing is just a drop in the ocean, but the ocean would be less without that drop. We can do no great things, only small things with great love. And so we really try to spread that feeling and take people's little small contributions and really put them together to create a family for these kids, because that's what they're missing, and that's what we can do for them. It's just spread pretty widely. It's a very, very dispersed family, but there's a lot of love.
Wow.
So.
Well, Bekka, you are just an inspiration, and I thank you for taking the time to share your story with us this morning, and certainly wish you every success.
Thank you so much for having me and letting us get the word out about what we do, and we're very grateful. So thank you.
Thank you. Let's do some good.